Hello, I'm John David Bruja on location at Martha's Vineyard, standing in front of the Martha's Vineyard Museum. And welcome to a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner. United States Lighthouse Society presents the Cape Cod Islands Tour. Welcome to episode 1 of John's Traveling Movie Corner, United States Lighthouse Society, Cape Cod Islands Tour. On this tour, we're going to see hopefully around 24 lighthouses and many movie locations. In fact, one comes to mind. It's celebrating its 50th anniversary. How about Jaws? Well, we had our welcome dinner last night, so we got to meet all the people that are going to be on this cruise. So that can only mean one thing. The first day of traveling to lighthouses. We hope to see at least 4 and maybe climb 1. And who knows, we may see a whale or 2 in between. Our inaugural lighthouse on the trip is the Conimicut Lighthouse in Rhode Island. There was a light here as early as 1868, but the one behind us arrived in 1883. The granite tower stands at 58 feet tall and originally had a 4th order lens. The city of Warwick obtained the light in 2004 and it was automated in 1963. Well, we left Rhode Island, but will we return at the end of the tour? We now are in Fall River, Massachusetts on the Borden Marina, standing in front of the Borden Flats Lighthouse. In 1880, $25,000 was appropriated to build the Borden Flats Lighthouse, which arrived October 1st, 1881 at a height of 50 feet. And yes, it's another spark plug. It contained a fog bell and it started with a 5th order Fresnel lens. But in 1932, a 4th order lens arrived and that was replaced in 1977 by a modern optic lens. If you look close, the tower looks a little tilted to the north, and that was because of the great New England hurricane of 1938. You can also get another good view of the Borden Flats Lighthouse while crossing the Braga Bridge. Located on the Taunton River, the Borden Flats Lighthouse was automated in 1963. The current owner turned it into a bed and breakfast and painted his trademark red stripe in the middle and put in the red roof on top. Well, now we're going to take a cruise. We just reached Millway Marina in Hyannis, Massachusetts. We're going to see hopefully Sandy Neck Lighthouse and maybe Race Point Lighthouse, Wood End Lighthouse, and maybe even some whales along the way. While on our whale watcher cruise, we did encounter lighthouses. The first one we saw was Sandy Neck. It's located in West Barnstable, Massachusetts, near the Barnstable Harbor. In 1826, Congress appropriated $3,500 and the original 16-foot tall wooden tower was built. It was established in 1826 and the current one was built in 1857 at a height of 52 feet. It was discontinued in 1931 but relit in 2007. Sandy Neck Lighthouse had an original 5th order lens and an oil house that arrived in 1905. A circular 48-foot tall brick tower now stands just north of the original dwelling. In 2003, the Sandy Neck Lighthouse Restoration Committee restored the tower, and in 2007 it was relit. The other lights that we saw on the Whale Watcher cruise was Race Point Lighthouse, Wood and Lighthouse we will be seeing closer as we take a sailboat ride later on our tour. And despite the weather, once we got further out of Barnstable Harbor and closer to the Race Point Lighthouse, we did some circling and finally saw several whales surfacing above the water. Well, after seeing 1 or 2 or 3 whales and 3 or 4 lighthouses, we are now to our last lighthouse of the day, Chatham Lighthouse. And yes, it's one we get to climb all 44 steps up to the lantern room. The city of Chatham has 66 miles of shoreline and is the only city in Cape Cod surrounded by 3 sides of water. Pleasant Bay to the north, Nantucket Sound to the south, and Atlantic Ocean to the east. It started with 2 wooden towers that were replaced in 1877. 2 new cast iron towers arrived, but in 1841, one moved to Eastham area in 1923, which became the Nauset Light. $7,000 was spent for the 1808 light, 40 feet tall and 70 feet apart from each other, which also included a single-story keeper's dwelling. Established in 1808, the current lighthouse behind me arrived in 1877 at a height of 48 feet tall, known as Twin Lights before 1923. Chatham Lighthouse contains a 4th order lens. It is one of 6 lighthouses built in the Cape, and it is one of 16 lighthouses remaining on the Cape Cod coast. Ironically, Chatham Lighthouse remained active during World War II as an aid to soldiers. Chatham Lighthouse was automated in 1982. Tours for Chatham Lighthouse began in 1990. And yes, it is a movie location. 2018's Perfect Couple on Netflix starring Nicole Kidman and Liv Schreiber, and 2016 Finest Hours with Chris Pine and Casey Affleck, depicting the courageous rescue of the United States Coast Guard back in 1952 of the SS Pendleton. And this was not the boat used in the rescue in 1952. That is elsewhere being refurbished to its original condition. As you can see, the United States Coast Guard still operates Chatham Lighthouse and is rarely open to the public. But as usual, we had the right connections when we were able to go inside and up to the lighthouse lantern room. Well, that concludes our first day of traveling to lighthouses on the United States Lighthouse Society Cape Cod and Islands Tour. We got to see 4 lighthouses, the last one, Chatham Lighthouse, which we got to climb, and we took a whale watching cruise, and we actually did see several whales during the cruise and lighthouses. Well, it's our second day of traveling to more lighthouses in Cape Cod. Today we are taking a cruise to Martha's Vineyard, hopefully to see 4 lighthouses: East Chop, West Chop, Gay Head, and Edgartown Lighthouse. We're going to swing by at Martha's Vineyard Museum, and who knows what else we might see there. Maybe a movie location or 2. And just after we left the dock, we passed by what looked like a lighthouse. And it turns out to be a full light known as Lewis Bay. Well, we made it to Martha's Vineyard and we reached our first lighthouse, East Chop. The current one behind me arrived in 1877 at a height of 40 feet. It was automated in 1934 and the lens was replaced in 1984. It's located 79 feet above sea level on a cliff known as Telegraph Hill. And it was the last of 5 lighthouses to be built on Martha's Vineyard. Well, I made it to Martha's Vineyard, and behind me is the Martha's Vineyard Museum. Founded in 1922 as the Dukes County Historical Society, it's been around for over 100 years, with artifacts, documents, photographs, and more depicting the history of the island. In 1932, they obtained the 1776 Cook House in Edgartown and started having their meetings there. In 2006, it became the Martha's Vineyard Museum. In 2011, it moved to its current location, a former 1895 Marine Hospital in Vineyard Haven. After a major renovation, the modern facility now covers over 10,000 square feet for its offices, galleries, and library collection of maps, charts, manuscripts, and much, much more. And besides that, the Martha's Vineyard Museum also operates the East Chop and Edgartown Lighthouses. Well, we reached Gay Head Lighthouse. First lit in 1799, the current one behind us arrived in 1856 at a height of 51 feet. It is one of the first to feature a rotating light. Gay Head Lighthouse originally had a first order Fresnel lens, which we saw earlier down at Martha Vineyard Museum. It was the first lighthouse to be built on Martha's Vineyard. Gay Head Lighthouse is located on the multicolored cliffs while overlooking Devil's Bridge rocks. In 2015, it was relocated successfully 129 feet further inland and features a black lantern and circular gallery. Later, I made it up to the lantern room and outside of Gay Head Lighthouse. And it's not just because I can go inside and climb the 55 steps up to the lantern room. It's when I go outside and I see the Atlantic Ocean or Elizabeth Islands, or even just those colors on the ridge down below. In the Aquina Circle Cultural District, located by the Scenic Overlook, and maybe even check that out later. And of course, you can't forget one of the iconic scenes from the movie Jaws, where Chief Brody, played by Roy Scheider, Matt Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and the mayor, played by Murray Hamilton, stood in front of the billboard arguing about the size of the shark and whether to open or close the beaches. And it was done right here in front of Gay Head Lighthouse. Well, we made it to our next lighthouse, Edgartown Harbor Lighthouse. First lit in 1939, the 40-foot cast iron tower marks the entrance to Edgartown Harbor and Chatham Bay. Originally built in 1828, later replaced in 1938 by a current cast iron tower, the original was located on an artificial island. In 2014, the town of Edgartown purchased the lighthouse for $1 from the U.S. government. Now, when they decided to film the movie Jaws, they picked the perfect location. The Edgartown Harbor Lighthouse was in many backdrop scenes when they were filming in downtown Edgartown, especially when the boats were leaving the harbor to go and capture that killer shark. And unfortunately, the Great New England Hurricane of 1938 led to some severe damage to the lighthouse. That's right, it's another lighthouse I get to climb inside and all the way up to the lantern room. 47 steps. I made it up to Edgartown Lighthouse. I made it to the lantern room. And just so you know, Jaws wasn't the only movie filmed in Martha's Vineyard. There were other movies and TV shows, including The Inkwell in 1994, Jumping the Broom in 2011, and the remake of Sabrina in 1995, starring Julia Ormond, Harrison Ford, and Greg Kinnear. Well, we made it to our final lighthouse of the day, West Chop Lighthouse. The original was built in 1817 at 25 feet. The current one behind me, 1891, at a height of 52 feet. It was the last light to be automated in 1976. It was twice moved from the 60-foot high bluff, first in 1848, then in 1891. It's located on the northern tip of Martha's Vineyard. and it still houses the original 4th order lens. Well, I made it to Martha's Vineyard, and behind me is the Martha's Vineyard Museum, where they have an extensive Jaws 50th anniversary exhibit. It had a little of everything, from sketches to props, from the mechanical shark to a boat and a prop head and all the many signs, and of course the infamous billboard. Movie memorabilia to iconic displays, to clothing worn by the actors, to parts played by the islanders themselves, and of course the premiere at Oak Bluffs Island Theater on Martha's Vineyard. June 20th, 1975, on over more than 450 screens, Steven Spielberg's second film, Jaws, from the book by Peter Benchley, shot mostly on Martha's Vineyard. It opened #1 and pretty much stayed #1 for the entire summer, becoming the biggest grossing movie of all time, at least for 2 more years. Well, that wraps up another day of seeing lighthouses. This time we visited Martha's Vineyard and we got to see 4 lighthouses: Gay Head, West and East Chop, and Edgartown. And we got to climb 2 of them, Edgartown and Gay Head. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. This concludes the first episode of John's Traveling Movie Corner, United States Lighthouse Society, Cape Cod and Island Tours. I hope you continue to enjoy the ride. I'd like to thank the captain and the crew of the Whale Watchers Cruise for getting us safely out and safely back. And I would like to thank our bus driver, Gene, for getting us safely from lighthouse to lighthouse to lighthouse to lighthouse on Martha's Vineyard. I'm John David Bruja on location, standing in front of Chatham Lighthouse in Massachusetts. This has been a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner. United States Lighthouse Society presents Cape Cod and Islands Tour. I hope you enjoyed the ride.